Hello beautiful souls, and welcome back to this video. As you saw by the title, this is an updated yoga journey video. It's just so wild to me how much can change in such a short amount of time. As you may have seen, I've done my yoga teacher training and I've come back from that. My practice feels so much more deeper and more connected and just like so much more alive. I feel like the realizations and the things that have happened since then have been some of the most pivotal, not just in regards to my yoga journey, but in regards to my life. I discovered an online studio called Commune Online. That studio kind of was a game changer in my yoga journey, and it really brought a new depth into my practice. I started dabbling into some breath work. A lot of the philosophies that I started to get into in my yoga teacher training, which is a bit down the line still, were started to get introduced to me through Commune Online. Another thing that I think was really great for my practice is that I was less picky about the classes that I did. So at the time they were doing only new classes, it would go live and then in 24 hours it would get taken off. And it was just kind of labeled Vinyasa with Shelby or Vinyasa with CJ. What would happen is I would just log on and see the new classes that had been posted that day, click on one, and then whatever happened, happened. And this was actually a really great thing to happen to my practice, because I wasn't choosing what I was going to do. I was having to show up as I was in that practice every day, and I think it brought something really beautiful into my practice in the sense that I just really learnt the art of showing up as you are and moving through whatever is given to you in a way that is aligned with what your body needs and what your spirit needs in that moment. That was a really beautiful lesson to learn. All of these little life lessons that the Commune team sprinkles into their practice, and all of the more philosophical things that they really have as a backbone of their studio, were really starting to hit home with me. I had the same teachers and the same voices and the same style of movement just consistently bringing me through my practice each day. I started to have more of these moments of realizations and unfoldings and these little seeds that were planted, and then slowly they grew over time. Yeah, just a really profound experience. And I think that happens when you find a teacher or some teachers or a studio that you love. This consistency in the way that they deliver things and the way that you move, and it kind of over time starts to really evoke something in you. And so that really made me appreciate and value finding a teacher or finding teachers, finding a community that like you almost grow together. And in this way, I feel like it's really powerful in the kind of discoveries that can unfold, because when it was just me by myself, I did find it was just taking a lot longer to have these moments. And then again, just community. I loved the community that it brought. I loved feeling like I was part of something bigger. And then this also kind of goes into a discovery that I will learn later down the line of like, we're all in this together, you know, we are oneness and whole. And so all of those ideas of totality and oneness were starting to be introduced to me through finding Commune. I still practice with them, and it is amazing to just kind of have consistent, regular teachers that move you through and really hold space for you to have these deeper realizations and moments within yourself. So after finding and practicing a lot with the Commune team, my yoga practice really started to become a place of safety and sanctuary and self-discovery and self-study. And I really just started to dive more into my practice in a more philosophical sense. It became less about the asana and the poses and the doing, though I will say it's funny because once I let that go, I feel like a lot of my asana practice got really strong as well. But I was starting to learn the concepts of practice and non-attachment, of power of breath work, and introduction to prana. I just had this real deep desire to learn more and to just deepen everything and go in and find more and explore and learn a bit more about the traditions of yoga, the history of yoga, how to teach yoga, thing that was starting to change my life in such a profound way. I just wanted to embody the lessons just on a whole deeper level. So around this time as well, these seeds of potentially doing a YTT were starting to get planted. Daniel came up with a brilliant analogy for me just a moment ago, saying that I treat the decisions in my life a lot like how I treat a shopping cart online. If I'm about to buy something, it'll sit in my cart for like 6 months and I won't really do anything about it except for just plant the seed of maybe that's a potential thing, and then I just plant that seed, and then time goes by, and then eventually I'm like, yep, I'm making that purchase, let's go. And that kind of is how the YTT unfolded, is that once lockdown happened, that was kind of the initial seed that was planted. And so for 6 months, I literally just sat on that idea going, should I do a YTT? Should I do a yoga teacher training? You know, like, do I do this? Where do I do this? How do I do this? When do I do this? So it was towards the end of 2020, about November, December, that I was like, I'm doing a YTT. It has to be in New Zealand because I've got no other choice. I can't travel, so we're doing it here. What are my options? Let's do this. And so I started researching, found my yoga teacher training. I have another video coming up soon. If it's live, I will post a card wherever it's meant to be posted. One of the big instigators for me taking this leap and doing it was that I was in a really heavy place emotionally and mentally. I was having a lot of anxiety. I wouldn't really say I had depression, but I definitely had bouts of it. It would come and go. It was mostly anxiety. That was getting pretty bad towards the end of that year. That was the year that COVID sort of happened, and I was really out of touch with my inner purpose. I didn't know what I was doing in life. My work seemed to just be crumbling before my eyes. I was losing work left, right, and center, and just like felt really uncertain and unstable a lot of that year, and it was just starting to kind of reach its climax point where I just was not in a really great place and just feeling generally out of control in my life. So then we head off to the YTT and my mind was absolutely blown. There's no other way of putting it, but it just really transformed my life. And you can hear more about it in the videos, because if I go into it, it'll make this video so much longer. But yeah, we just learned so much, a lot about history and philosophy, and it really deepened everything so much. And the lessons that I took away from that were a lot surrounding non-attachment, practice of non-attachment, just kind of pivotal, profound moments of discovery and of self-discovery and self-learning, of finding this new way of looking at the world and looking at life that really just expanded my entire view of everything. And this is also the time where there were lots of seeds planted for energetic and subtle body stuff. I say seeds planted because at the time of my YTT, that was the most challenging thing for me, was when we got to energetics week and subtle body stuff, and I just kind of was still a bit in my head about it and not really letting myself go there. We'll get there soon, but the seeds were planted for it. I think the biggest thing that helped me during that YTT was just to stay open and know that not everything was going to land straight away, if ever, and to be okay with that. And that was one of the things that I was okay with, being like, this isn't resonating, this isn't really hidden, but I'm okay with that. Also, just a love of sequencing and a love of teaching just really unfolded. One of the things that I remember asking Daniel before I went away to this YTT was, what if teaching's not for me? Or like, what if I'm not a good teacher? Or what if I don't want to teach? And he was like, then don't teach. And I was like, oh yeah. But during that YTT, it really solidified that, like, no, I love teaching yoga. During my YTT, my anxiety symptoms totally disappeared. I no longer had mouth ulcers. My hair was starting to grow back in some of the little bald patches that I had made. And yeah, I was just feeling so much more at peace and content, and more able to deal with the uncertainty and struggles of the world at the moment, and just surrendering into it. So that was one of the most amazing things, was to be coming home and to not have mouth ulcers for the first time in about a year. So I thought that was pretty incredible. After YTT, I'm just navigating the world of teaching yoga, and I didn't rush into it too quickly, which I'm kind of glad that I did, because I just wanted to let everything settle. Being out here in Piha, I don't really have studios to teach at, so I didn't really start putting my name forward for any studios because I just didn't really know what that would look like for me, having to commute essentially 2 hours to potentially teach like one class. We had a space come available out here in Piha, so I was putting on classes there at the old schoolhouse, just kind of teaching yoga out here in Piha, and it was really beautiful. And just navigating that new role of being a teacher and holding space for people was a really amazing space to be in. It's a totally different thing to practicing yoga as teaching yoga, but one that I am just equally as grateful to be able to do. I also just had such a passion to just continue learning, so I have been buying books ever since the YTT ended, of just things that I want to learn more about, dive deeper into, kind of seeds that were planted at YTT that I was interested in but didn't quite grasp then, so I wanted to learn more about them. So just this interest in self-study and continued learning and reading texts and books and just absorbing as much as I could, even though it was now kind of just like on myself to learn it. Then through this kind of deepening of wanting to learn more, I just started to get more into energetics and subtle body. So an amazing book that I read that actually really opened this up to me was Eastern Body, Western Mind, which is about the chakra systems, and it was such an incredible book and really kind of made those topics that felt really distant from me feel way more in reach. Bought myself a singing bowl. I was really interested in vibration and mantra, and starting to dive into this like different world, this different realm that I kind of was afraid to explore in a way, not because of my own fear, but I think because I've always been afraid of coming across as like that woo-woo yoga gal, I guess. Not being really attached to other people's opinions of me kind of helped me dive more into it, because I was just like, no man, if it works for you, it works for you, and if this is something you want to explore, you should let yourself explore that without fear of being judged or fear of people not understanding you. The chakras and the sound were a kind of gateway into just all of these other realms that I had never really explored before, that I was kind of holding myself back from. So I just started to launch myself straight into it, and it's been a really magical time. Started learning about like spirit guides and the pranic body, Ayurveda, feminine and masculine energy, and the universe, synchronicities, and shadow work. I also just started to pick up my oracle cards that I had with me since I was like 19 or 20 or whatever, that I'd kind of not picked up in a long time, and just allowed myself to do the things that bring me closer to source, and also just to try things and to be okay if I didn't necessarily vibe with something. So just kind of figuring what is aligned with me and what connects me. And that's been a really beautiful place to be in, and I just kind of allowed myself to dive into it. So at the start of all of that, our lockdown here in New Zealand happened again, and this is the first lockdown since the beginning of lockdowns that I actually was okay in. I kind of saw it as, okay, this is why we went away to do the yoga teacher training, is so that we could show up and share this practice when people needed it, and people need it now. And I just got into teaching yoga on YouTube, started making that content, and also just reconnected with my love of creating and sharing, and started to make more of the vlog style videos here, and as a way for me to share less of the physical asana practice and more of the spiritual, philosophical stuff that means something to me, and or that I just want to talk about or discuss, or it's a nice space for me to just kind of go off on my little yarns and potentially share them with other people. I also started meditating every day and journaling most days and doing yoga pretty much every day. It's been really transformative, and I think especially a daily meditation practice has just been like, do I have words? I don't think I have words. But yeah, I just really stayed dedicated to the practice. And in doing so, it definitely started to move some stuff and shake some stuff around. And this is kind of the more recent thing is I just feel very conscious and aware of what's going on in here and in here, and my involvement in the outside physical world. And I go through a lot of euphoric moments of just being totally at peace and feeling so connected and entwined with like the oneness of the universe and with myself and the world around me. And also I can feel really disconnected and really depressed and isolated and anxious, but because I'm sitting in it and being present for it, it can feel really intense, but in a way that I'm also just sitting there in awareness and not getting too attached to it. So then it's like easier to deal with, even though it's more intense, if that makes sense. Everything feels awake and alive, and it's a beautiful feeling, but it can also be really tough because when I go through some like maybe more depressive episodes, it can just feel really heavy, even though I know that in the end it'll be okay because things are constantly in flux and moving through, and being sad and being happy don't really matter. It's just part of the whole experience of life. And so I'm like more content about it. Have lots of moments of discovery and revelations, this deep understanding that doesn't come from my mind, it comes from being, which is really beautiful. In that I have just been like a lot more introverted and a lot more isolated, but I haven't been mad about it because I'm quite content in my own being, way more connected to inner purpose, to awakening and consciousness, and just being present as much as possible, noticing when I am going more unconscious, knowing when my pain body is activated and being able to witness it and come back to breath and come back to being. So that's kind of been what's happening for the last maybe 2 or 3 months. It's kind of been during lockdown when I really started to deepen my practice, is when all of this kind of started to unfold. And that's currently where I'm sitting at, as well as just feeling really content with my place within the universe and moving with the universe and surrendering to it, trusting, knowing that what is meant for me will be, looking out for the little synchronicities that the universe has to tell me, moving with my own energy as well, knowing when I'm needing more of a time to rest and knowing when I am in more of a state of manifesting and creating, and just kind of trusting those seasons and those changes, both in the world and within myself. I think a big thing has been being able to let go of resentment and to actually forgive people, which coming from a Scorpio is a big deal because I feel like I've just been holding on to so much resentment for my whole life, and I'm finally starting to figure out how to forgive people and how to let go of shit. I also just feel way less afraid and way more comfortable at just being who I am and sharing what I have to share. That way I just feel like I'm less caught up in the narratives of my mind, the false narratives, the stories that I tell myself. I feel like I'm more able to allow things to move in and move out and not really creating new samskaras and healing past samskaras, staying really consistent in my daily practices that help get me there, that help connect me to source and to maintaining peace and staying in truth. It's not perfect, but it's human, and I'm trying, and that's enough. And there's going to be some days where it doesn't all go to plan and I can still get caught up in things, and that's okay, as long as I can just come back to witnessing and being. That's enough. There's nothing else that I really have to do beyond that, is to just continue to come back and witness and be here. So that's the updated yoga journey. Thanks for sticking around. If you made it to the end of this video, I love you. Good job. If you made it to the end of this video, leave some sort of like star emoji, or just an emoji that gives you like magical vibes, because that's what I'm feeling right now. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for just being you. I just really appreciate you constantly showing up to welcome in consciousness. It's huge, it's massive. You don't understand how much of a difference it makes to the world and to the people around you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And until we are able to see each other again, peace. Oh, and also please like and subscribe and comment on this video, because it really helps me out, and I never ask it in any of my other videos, but I will ask it here because I feel like now is the time when I'm sitting down talking to you to do it. So like, subscribe, and give me a comment, whatever you like. But I love you and thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.